On this episode, we watched a movie about two worlds and one family. We watched Disney's Tarzan, and you're listening to Geeked Out.
Popcorn in our hands, ready for the show. From the classics to the blockbusters, we're always in the know. Throwing references like confetti, we keep it real. Geeked Out Podcast, we make you feel. We're the critics you can trust.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Geeked Out. My name is Kyle.
And I'm Juan.
And as you heard in the intro, as we move into our third week of our Disney Animation Renaissance miniseries, we watched Juan's pick of Disney's Tarzan. You know what, like we always do, first, why don't we delve into our histories with this movie? And this was your suggestion, your pick, however you want to put it. Why don't you lead us off, Juan?
Yeah. So, I remember when this movie came out, even when there were trailers on TV, it kind of hooked me from the first vine swing, or, mind you, the X Games vine swinging that he was doing, because they showed that right in the initial marketing of the movie, and it came out. That was definitely the best approach to hook kids like me at that time, because Tony Hawk was big at the time, and skateboarding and X Game like events were huge. So yeah, man, I ate this movie up from the first conception of the trailer.
You know, it's funny without even us bringing it up ahead of time, like, yeah, you mentioned the Tony Hawk aspect, and the way that he does the kind of his foot movement when he's sliding down the vines and things like that. Mm-hmm. I read doing some of my research that the animators actually studied Tony Hawk himself.
That makes sense.
And the movements that he would do on his skateboard for the way
I recognize some of those moves.
Yeah, it was that was the way that they modeled how he came down the branches, which, I mean, again, like you say, the X Games were absolutely huge at this time,
Mm-hmm.
and the whole extreme sports, the BMX, the skateboarding, rollerblading, all that stuff. But do you remember when was this a movie theater experience for you? Because I personally have a very vivid. Like, I remember where I was, who I saw it with. Like, for some reason, this movie is vividly stuck in my brain.
Yeah, I don't remember going to the theater to see this one specifically. We did definitely bought the VHS, but I think that was because I was taken to see this, like, to the theaters with my parents. I'm pretty sure. Like, we made an effort to go to the movies a lot growing up, so I wouldn't doubt this was a movie that I told my parents to take me to.
Yeah, like I say, I so vividly remember this because the summer that this came out, I was actually with my grandparents on a trip to BC to visit my aunt and uncle and my little cousin, and we were there for about 3 weeks. And while we were there, my cousin I think she's 4 or 5 years younger than me. So she would have only been like 3-4 years old type thing at the time, I think. And we went to the movie theater, but what I remember is when we walked into the theater, the whole front area where the concessions and the ticket desk and all that stuff, the entire room was decorated with like hanging vines and fake trees had been put up. Like, this theater was viewing this movie as like an absolute event.
Yeah, and it had a big marketing push.
Yeah, so
like the Burger King or McDonald's tie-in and all that. That was pretty big, and
it did.
They had a video game.
They did have a video game. Yep.
That shit was awesome. I love that game.
Yeah, and I think it kind of went with the theme because I vividly remember walking in and seeing that, and we went and saw the movie, and then we all went out to dinner at. Now, if you remember this one, we went to dinner at Rainforest Cafe.
Okay.
So it kind of just kept the whole day in that
In
jungle
the jungle.
type vibes. And I mean, to this day, this movie came out almost 30 years ago, and it's still ingrained in my head as if I was there yesterday. So that's a real special memory that I have of this movie and going to see it with my little cousin.
Mm. Okay. Yeah. That would definitely leave an imprint on a kid for sure.
So we'll go into the specifics. As I said, movie's Tarzan. It is actually the only Tarzan film that doesn't have any kind of superlatives in the name. Most of them are like The Legend of Tarzan or Tarzan and Jane. Or it's the only Tarzan film that has a single word title, and that
Just
being
Tarzan?
just Tarzan.
Really?
Yep.
Interesting.
Which I thought was kind of funny. Before I get too far ahead, so the original story was written by a man named Edgar Rice Burroughs, and he wrote books about the character, and
Okay.
obviously
Name rings
all
a
of the film and television adaptations are taken from his work. But the movie originally was released on June 18th of 1999. On a budget of $130 million, it brought in a worldwide box office of $448 million. So, needless to say, the movie did pretty well. It does mark the end of the Disney animation renaissance. It currently has a 7.3 out of 10 on IMDb. The critics at Rotten Tomatoes on the tomato meter have it at a 90%, and the fans on the popcorn meter have it at a 75. A little bit of a disparity, but not. I don't think it's a big enough difference to kind of say one liked it, one hated it.
I could see why the critics would find it more appealing than the audience, because even though this is an entertaining movie, it's not compared to the other Disney classics. It's not as jokey or funny. This is a very
it does have a much more almost grown-up feel to it.
It's very grounded and very immersive, unlike
aside from the talking animals.
Yeah, well, yeah. But even still, even though we're dealing with talking animals, this is a story that's very human. Even the drama within the animals in the story, it's very human.
Well, oddly enough, I didn't. Now, this might be an embarrassing statement for me to make, but I didn't realize until, it was not this watch, but maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, I didn't realize that he's not speaking English with the gorillas. Like, kids' movies, it's like magical where they can talk to the animals and the animals just happen to answer.
They just know, yeah.
Well, that's how most Disney movies work. This one, he's grunting. He's doing the ooh 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 and he learns the language because he grows up there. I always thought he was just talking English, and then I'm like, well, why can't these gorillas and the people communicate? Well, they don't know, obviously, how to talk to each other.
Yeah.
I'm kind of embarrassed how long that took me to realize.
Well, I always knew speech and him talking was an issue, or because he has a very simple way of talking when he does speak, like English.
Mm.
So I always knew that was a part of the character.
Rub it in.
No, yeah. But honestly, even though he's not credited as the first superhero, I kind of think Tarzan is low-key the first superhero. At least one of them.
He might be.
I mean, Superman is officially the first superhero because he has superpowers. But Tarzan's definitely the prototype. And he would be considered a superhero now.
Yeah, he possesses strength at one point in the movie to take down a full-size silverback gorilla.
I mean, that is insanely ridiculous.
And hold him in a chokehold for 3 people to escape. Dude, I don't think I could get my hand on a silverback gorilla before I was dust.
No way. Yeah, but I mean, I I would like to think that he was holding back because he's family, or at least he grew up. I don't know, man. I just don't believe that he was really trying to use his strength there in that situation because there's just no way.
You wouldn't think so because, I mean,
There's no way. Yeah, they
yeah,
don't really utilize they don't showcase how strong a gorilla actually is.
I mean, even the fact that he picks up that leopard, those things are a couple 100 pounds, and he just holds it over his head like he's holding a
Yeah,
house cat.
he's got crazy core strength for sure. Yeah, they kind of embellished a little bit on his strength there to be like basically peak human. Yeah, he's got like peak human. He doesn't have super strength, but he's definitely flirting around with that, and he definitely
Mm-hmm.
has a peak human strength at least, which is yeah like a low key superhero. That's why I always considered him like one of the first superheroes.
I just need to know how he gets so many muscles and so strong by eating fruits and no protein.
Right? Because he doesn't have the body type of a gorilla. He's not doesn't have the same genetic code, so his
Still
body
eats
won't be able
protein.
to. Exactly, because he's not a gorilla. Gorillas can do that. They can build muscle off of that. So no, I mean obviously they're not gonna. You gotta suspend your disbelief in moments like that, and yeah. But it would have been nice if you showed him like eating some kind of meat. But then that means he'd have to kill animals, and that would add another dynamic to the movie that the movie doesn't have enough time to dive into.
Yeah, because the way the movie is, the only animal that he kills is Sabor, the leopard, and that's only because he's doing it to protect the rest of his family.
Mhm.
So to get
Got
back
really good
into
genetics, got good
very,
genes.
very, we'll get to that in a minute. But to get back to the details, so the movie was directed by Chris Buck and Kevin Lima, and it was written, as I said, that they were adapted from the books. But there were 25 different writers on this movie. I did not list them all.
That's crazy.
I know. And I mean, some
I
of them
mean,
just say like story by credit, so I really don't know how much they did, or
yeah,
it's hard to find out that exact information. But I was like, 25 writers.
that yeah.
I can't
That
list
seems
off
like that seems like a
25
recipe.
writers.
Yeah, that seems like a recipe for not a good written movie, just because there's too many cooks in that kitchen.
Yeah,
I don't I don't know how significant each writer had in at least the final draft of this movie. Uh, but if it is, that's impressive that they were able to tell such a story with so many cooks,
yeah,
if that's
absolutely.
true.
I mean, so
Because
I'm looking at it right now, and there's 3 people who are credited for the screenplay, and those are Tab Murphy, Bob Sudiker, and Noni White. And then everybody else has like a story by credit. So I'm guessing that they wrote the original, and then these people might have come in to add or change little things here and there, or to punch up a scene, or
yeah, if you like are involved with the character and written for the character, you get credited when that character is in something.
yeah,
So maybe it's something like that.
yeah. It was just wild when I saw that come up, and I was like, I can't list 25 writers. Are you
We'd
kidding?
be here for the majority, at
I
least
mean,
half the
we
podcast.
we try to make our episodes around an hour to an hour and a half, and that would have put us at probably 15 minutes just to get through all the names
Yeah,
plus the info, and that's just too much.
Yeah, even though we do respect you for contributing to the film, we cannot list all the
No.
20 plus names right now. But
I
we do
will.
have
I
our
will. I
respect.
will list the actors starring the main actors. So the movie is
Yeah.
starring Tony Goldwyn, Minnie Driver, Glenn Close, Wayne Knight, Nigel Hawthorne, and Rosie O'Donnell. The
Mm.
plot is a man raised by gorillas must decide where he really belongs when he discovers that he is actually a human. So, first part of the movie, after his parents are killed by a leopard Sabor, the human infant is adopted by the gorilla Kala. Growing up as an outcast under the stern gaze of the leader Kerchak, Tarzan spends his youth mastering the jungle and eventually will kill Sabor, proving he belongs to the troop, even if he doesn't look like them. Now, I will say right off the bat, to start this movie, we kick right into what I consider is to me, hands down, the best Disney movie soundtrack out there. And it is
Yeah,
Phil
absolutely.
Collins from beginning to end.
And one of the saddest openings in a Disney
It's
movie. It's up
it,
there.
it's a lot.
There's a lot going on. It doesn't hold back, and it pulls you right in.
I mean,
And
right off the bat, when Tarzan is a baby and his mother hit the water in the boat, and she's frantically looking up, you don't know if his dad's actually gonna follow, because it seems like he did everything he could to just allow the boat to be released. But then
no,
he comes over the edge, and obviously he escapes the fire and the ship goes down. But for those couple seconds, you're like, is the dad even going to make it to off the ship?
right, and it just immediately establishes real stakes.
And his father has one of the best mustaches in animation history.
It's a good mustache right there.
Connects to
And
the sideburns, like, my God.
And do you know like the fan theory that this movie is connected to another famous
That these are Anna and Elsa's parents.
Pixar movie? Yeah.
So I like to joke around with that because I know a lot of people who are so staunchly against that. So just for fun, I will bring it up just to irritate them. Here's where that doesn't make any sense. So
Uh-oh.
I've watched Frozen, I don't know how many times. And they say in the movie that, so when they're leaving, Elsa says to her parents, like, you're only going to be gone 2 weeks. Okay? Then it shows their I almost said plane, their ship sink. So if they're only gone 2 weeks, how did their mother carry a baby to term and give birth to it? Because Tarzan's already born when they're on the ship. It's not like she gets off the ship and she's like 2 months pregnant. No, he is born. He is like a 6-month-old baby minimum.
Okay.
So the timeline of that just doesn't make sense. I think Disney has actually addressed that fan rumor. I don't know what they've actually said, but yeah, I always bring that up to people and just be like, did you know that they're... And they'll get so irritated, be like, no, they're not. Shut up.
I mean, no, it's nice.
There are people out there who take Disney real serious.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And they do not like their
Those are the same people that
precious
go
IP
Disney
to be
every
sullied in any way.
Yeah, absolutely. And they didn't have the hindsight to connect them, so it was just a coincidence. And,
Well,
you know,
it's the
fine,
other
connect
thing
them.
that, have you ever read, this is going to go off on a bit of a
Cool.
tangent, but have you ever read the theory that every Pixar movie is in the same
Mhm.
universe?
Absolutely.
That is a really, like, I like that theory. It's really interesting to look into and kind of
Yeah,
read how
I
they
mean
all
it
connect.
does, but in most cases, or a lot of the cases, it does connect pretty good, pretty clean.
Well, one of the
But,
ones I actually
but
just recently noticed,
some are grasping at straws and, trying to
yeah,
really, you know,
but one of the ones that I actually recently noticed, and I like how it really did that, was with my kids. We were watching A Bug's Life, and when Flick goes to the city to meet the circus bugs. It shows that the city is at the base of this trailer, like a Airstream trailer type thing. That's the same trailer that Randall comes out of the closet at the end of Monsters, Inc.
Okay, yeah, I think I've seen the comparative.
So we're just watching it, and as he's going to approach the city, and they show the trailer, I got all excited, and I was like, "That's the trailer for Monsters, Inc. with Randall." And my kids are like, "The fuck are you talking about?" Like, don't worry, I'll explain it to you when you can put these things together when you're older.
It's a rabbit hole that goes really, really deep. And the thing is that once you don't want to get caught in that rabbit hole.
A lot of it makes sense, though.
Making connection. It does. But once you actively try to connect every movie, you start to see things that aren't there. But I do feel like at least the majority of those movies are connected very strongly.
Yeah, it is a cool thing to read if you want to go down that rabbit hole on a random afternoon.
Mm-hmm. There's a bunch of YouTube videos that explain it to you. So either way,
maybe
watch it.
Maybe those YouTube videos could explain how Tarzan's parents build this state-of-the-art fucking treehouse with just the two of them, and they seem to do it in a matter of a couple months because he hasn't really grown very much since they landed on the island.
No, it seems like they were there maybe a fucking 2 weeks or so, 2-3 weeks, and they built this lavish. Yeah,
this thing's beautiful.
It's definitely some time was spent building this, but he's one of those classic men that could build a whole house.
Out of what?
I don't know. Out of the vines and trees and shit all around.
But it shows him with a saw. Did he swim back out and dive down and find tools?
If a man can pull off that mustache so well, that perfect stash, I feel like he can do anything. So
I nitpick. Again, this is a kid's movie. You got to kind of suspend that disbelief. But what I really did like is during this, they show a lot of things in this movie, and I didn't realize how much. A lot of things in this movie are done by montage, so they're able to skip over a lot of story details doing that. And
yeah, I feel like a lot of that has to do with the
great
just
songs.
The way they structured exactly. The songs are almost like a montage style of a song. So I don't know maybe what came first, the songs or the way they structured the movie. But that montage style is prevalent.
Well, I definitely like this opening one because not only does it shows in the span of just a couple minutes, you can see the human family, the gorilla family, because Kala and Kerchak have a baby gorilla, just like human mother, human father have baby Tarzan. And it shows not only how different, but also how similar they are at the same time. It shows them playing with the babies this in kind of a similar way. It shows that they have the same love for the child despite being two different species. There are a lot of those connecting lines between the two of them. And then we get tragedy with this fucking leopard Sabor. Thank God they didn't show it actually attack the baby gorilla, because even me, I'd be like, that's going too far.
I mean, all that is implied in this movie, but they do show you without showing you. I mean, they show the thing getting snatched up, basically, right?
Yeah, it just shows it, and then you just see Sabor growl type thing.
And then you see the reaction because the parents, they're seeing it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I
And
mean, we're dealing with apes. We're dealing with animals, wild animals, but you you don't there are times where you don't even really see them as animals. You see them as people because
mhm.
the way, this movie's written, uh, and just how they show the apes. And again, this how this movie is very grounded in emotion that you f- you just see they just feel human, man, which is
Yeah,
great, which is
and you
yeah, man.
can, and you really get to see the because again, the first part's in a montage with music. You really get to see Kala's motherly instincts when she hears Tarzan crying and she takes off to go find him. And when she walks into the lavish treehouse, they show the corpses of his parents dead on the floor, and that for just a split second is a very heavy and very intense moment that they immediately kind of switch away from, because then we get the playful baby interacting with this gorilla, and she smells his dirty diaper and he sticks his hands in her nose, and it's all very funny until you see that tail drop next to her head and you realize he's still there. And
Hmm.
now she now has an opportunity to defend and protect this baby, unlike she when she wasn't able to get to her child. But even
Yep.
in the Disney way, as intense as it is, they still cut through it with a little bit of comedy. And I've always found it so funny when she's holding the baby upside down by the diaper and like smacking his butt against the wood, and he's kind of laughing as she does it when Sabor's underneath in like the rope net.
Yeah, it's cutting the tension of during a very, very serious scene.
Mm.
And it's not it doesn't take away from the stakes that's happening, but they added that for the kids, so they're not too scared of what's happening because that baby's on the verge of getting eaten by a fucking monster.
And it works because I said this. I forget if I said this on our recording last week or after we had kind of finished, and you and I were just kind of shooting the shit. Um, I had actually recently watched this movie with my kids like a week and a half ago, so it was very fresh in my head. I still did watch it again to take my notes, but when I was watching it, I was remembering how they reacted, and the beginning scene when it was the baby and Sabor, they didn't really understand, I don't think, what was going on. But this scene when he was chasing Tarzan, my youngest wasn't paying a ton of attention, but my oldest, my 4 year old, she kept going, Daddy, I'm scared. And then as soon as something would happen, the whole thing with Tarzan being upside down, she would start laughing. Oh, that's so silly. And yeah, the way that they intersperse and they cut in that humor, it really is effective, because and I got to see that firsthand.
Mhm. Which is it was much needed and very
Yeah,
well placed. And again, like this is the start of how dynamic the action scenes were because it's even though this is an animated feature, the camera work and how they are following the characters during these action scenes,
a lot of fast movement.
and they put you right into the action to where like because it seems like almost the camera's chasing
Yeah,
the action or chasing the characters. You're so immersed in what's happening. Like you feel like you are in the action itself, like in that scene with those characters.
yeah, that's exactly what it feels like, and it's a great thing that they're able to do that. And then once she brings Tarzan back, she basically says to Kerchak, like, I'm going to be his mother. And immediately he doesn't like the idea. And he says to her, he won't replace the one that we lost. But she says, like, well, he has nobody, so I'm going to be his mother. And he immediately is not. on board with that. He thinks it's a bad idea. And so she kind of takes him off into her own nest, and we do a quick cut, like a fast forward to, I don't know, maybe what, 8, 10, maybe. I don't know how old he is when you get to like childhood Tarzan.
Little Tarzan. He seems to be about less than 10. I'd say between 6 and 8.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because all he wants to do is play, but he also is old enough to know, I want to be part of this group of gorillas in the movie, because they're cool. Like, I'm friends with Turk, but I want to be friends with these other guys. And so he's willing to do, as we see, anything to make it happen. And I don't think I'd be doing what he does.
Oh yeah. And yeah, man, the whole Turk not approving of him, and him being an outcast.
I think that's what it is. I think Turk's a friend, like his good friend, but she also knows that he's also an outcast at the same time. And it's almost like, I don't want to be lumped in with him, and then everybody's going to think I'm weird or I'm strange. But
yeah, so even the people that are accepting of him don't fully accept him.
No.
And that's, that's a hard thing for somebody to go through.
So they get him to dive off what looks like a 200-foot cliff, which, number one, dead. But they get him to go down to steal a hair out of an elephant's tail. In this scene, we are also introduced to the child version of Tantor the elephant, who I think is absolutely hysterical.
Yes, I agree.
And obviously, he does it. It causes them to all freak out. There's a stampede where some of the gorilla children are almost killed, and it's just another thing that Tarzan gets blamed for, and you get more of the disappointment from Kerchak towards Tarzan. But he says to Turk, "But I got the hair. Like, this is what you guys said I had to do. Like, I still went and did it."
Yeah, his need to feel accepted into the group definitely drove that decision, and yeah, he pulled us through.
Now,
and it's just another series of things he has to do to be accepted into the pack. This is just one of the first things he did in the movie.
well, I kind of, and I don't know if Disney was actually going for this. I'm sure in a little bit of a way they were, but it very much seems like an allegory for racism or elitism, or
Oh yeah,
like, you don't belong with us. You're different. Because even after this, well, Kerchak says to him, like, you'll never be one of us. He goes and tries to cover himself with mud so that he can look like the gorillas, and then we get this incredibly touching scene where Kala goes and she says, "Here, look, your hand, my hand. Your foot, my foot." He puts his head on her chest, my heart, your heart. So she's like, while we look different, we are kind of the same. We're still both creatures with all of these things that are similar. We just don't look exactly like one another. That makes us different, but not different at the same time, if that makes sense.
yeah, exactly. And again, yeah, we're telling the tale of a human and gorillas. But again, yeah, you could throw this as just any human of a different race being raised by, even like any different class, different race,
Yeah,
different
it
whatever,
doesn't even necessarily have to be, like I said, race, but like you say, elitism, classism,
culture, anything
anything like that.
Yeah, and yeah, that's why, again, this movie is very grounded in human, even with a movie full of animals.
Now
because
I've. Oh, go
just the
ahead.
themes, just because the themes are very human throughout the whole
Hmm.
movie.
Yeah, again, it's something that I probably wouldn't have picked up on too much as a kid, and if I did, it was kind of like a maybe more of like a subliminal thing. But as an adult, I very much notice it right in front of me. Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
but oddly enough, that's really so. We only really get what 5, 7 minutes of Tarzan as that kid, because then we immediately go into because he's Tarzan says I'm going to be the greatest ape or gorilla. I forget which word he uses that there's ever been, and we immediately go into the Son of Man montage, which shows him learning how to do things like the gorillas, but also improve on them so that he can do them his own way. He makes his spear. He starts learning how to swing on the vines, doing his skateboard surfing on the trees.
Tony Hawk shit. Yeah, that's just cool though.
I mean, don't get me wrong. It looks great, and I love that they do add in because apes and gorillas do use both their hands and feet. So I do like that throughout the movie you see him use his feet as a second set of hands. Like he uses his foot to grab an entire fucking melon at one point when he's an adult. And when he's swinging on the vines, he's grabbing them with both his hands and his feet. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I believe the animators or the writers or somebody, they studied gorillas extensively, and it
mhm.
shows. It definitely shows with the subtle things, the little details.
Yeah, and I even and I really like the way they do the transition where it's Tantor throws him in the air, and as he's in the air, he transforms into adult Tarzan, and they follow that up with when he hits the water, right behind him, adult Tantor hits the water.
Mhm.
So it's showing that obviously time has passed. These animals that he's friends with as kids have now grown up, and he's been immersed in this world. Let's even just say he's 18 years old. He's been raised as a gorilla for 18 years. But so does that mean that when he's talking to Tantor, he's speaking elephant?
Yep, I guess it
Or
has
is
to.
Tantor speaking gorilla? Because you never hear him talk to any other animals except Turk and like the gorillas and Tantor.
Yeah, I think just the gorillas and elephants are like, I guess, sentient in a way, where like they're the only ones that look like could talk.
Because why couldn't he learn leopard and talk to Sabor instead of having to fight him?
Exactly. It would have added more personality to the cat, and but I don't know. But no, I'm going to assume that he is speaking elephant.
That's what I was thinking. I just thought I'd bring it up just for fun. But again, you get so I didn't realize it again until this time because you get a lot of storyline and that's skipped over because they use the montages in such a way. Because immediately he goes from now you've missed his entire growing up. Now he's an adult.
Hmm.
Then we go right into the fight with him and Sabor, and then immediately after that is the introduction of the other humans. So there's not a whole lot of showing what his quote unquote day to day life is aside from what you see in the montage.
Yeah, I mean it's got a short window of time to pack
Yeah,
enough
and
story.
don't get me wrong, it's very effective. Like you get to see enough information, but there's nothing really talked about,
Yeah, yeah,
which is fine because again, it is a kids
yeah,
movie, and it's a lot easier for them to visually put things together as opposed to have a big exposition dump.
yeah. No, this is a very visual story being told, even with like Tarzan, um, when he is learning English. and he's around the human characters, he has to rely on a lot of his body language to
Mm-hmm.
get his message or what he, is trying to say across. And they do it effectively, very effectively.
Now
So,
that
yeah, go ahead.
I'll say this fight that he has with Sabor is badass.
Oh yeah,
They don't show
every
you the
action
killing blow, but
it's
or
implied as hell.
or any
It's
blood for
very
that
implied.
matter.
Yeah,
But when he
but
comes
no,
out, he
yeah,
lifts the body, and you get that iconic. I'm not going to do it because my throat will never forgive me. But that iconic Tarzan yell.
yeah, the classic yell for sure, which was good. Um, I didn't realize he took out the leopard so quickly in the movie, but it makes sense. He didn't have any speaking lines, so
Well, he's meant to be. I think the way they have it framed is the leopard is the villain of the old world. The humans and the guns and whatnot are the villains of the new world, and the way the world is trending, is going.
yeah. And he's also there to show what's the main gorilla, the lead gorilla?
Kerchak
Yeah, to show that he is also capable of
leading.
leading, which is it will unfortunately pay off or come into play later on in the movie.
Yeah. So moving to Act 2, the arrival of an English expedition introduces Tarzan to humans for the first time. He becomes smitten with Jane Porter and begins learning about human civilization. However, their guide Clayton manipulates Tarzan's feelings for Jane's to find the gorillas' secret nesting grounds, hoping to capture them for the slave trade. Didn't know
Yeah,
that's why he wanted them.
yeah. I always thought he wanted like their
He just says that he
clones
says
or
that he's
something.
going to sell them for $300 or 300 pieces of silver a head. Never goes on to say I'm going to sell them to people for pets. I'm going to sell them to people so they can mount their heads on the wall. But apparently, according to Gemini AI, it's for the slave trade.
Okay, well they didn't really explicitly say that.
I
And
don't know.
when he said 300 a head, I took it literal.
Yeah,
So
like
maybe,
I was thinking he was
yeah,
going to sell like their pelts or their.
yeah, that's usually what I thought, or the skin, or the fur, or the
But
teeth, or
apparently
something.
they're going to get gorillas to work for them, even though they don't speak the language.
Sure. I mean, realistically, they would be used for, their bodies, like their pelts
No, we're going to have them go.
meat and
We're
their
going to have the
bones.
gorillas go plow a field, but they can't speak English, and we have no way of communicating. We're just going to hope
I
for the
mean,
best.
if you could train a gorilla to listen to you, to be a slave, then fuck yeah, I would.
An
But
800 to 1,000 pound silverback gorilla plowing a field will never get tired.
absolutely not. You'll get way more work done than all the other farmers around with their fucking black slaves. Not
Well, all the other farmers are going. All the other farmers are going.
what the hell?
I have humans helping me. I need to get me one of those gorillas.
That's hilarious. These punk ass humans need to upgrade. But no, yeah, I didn't realize that. That's crazy.
Yeah, I didn't either. But so I said a minute ago how it kind of Sabor was a symbol of the villain of the old world. Humans are the villains of the new, and I think that it's even more amplified in the fact that the humans are literally introduced by the sound of a distant gunshot,
Yeah.
which they don't know what that sound is, but we do. So immediately we're like, danger. Like, that's not a sound you want to hear for the first time. And even when the camera goes and the camera, but when it goes to introduce Clayton, the professor, and Jane, it shows Clayton he seems to have no respect for the jungle itself. He's just hacking away with a machete to get through. He's got a shotgun basically at the ready to shoot anything that moves, which, I mean, I get that he's a guide, but if you're a guide for people who want to study things in the jungle, maybe don't shoot everything that you can.
I mean, they had to establish that he's the bad guy pretty early,
True.
just because that's the Disney way. Um, and for the kids' sake, I guess you're just you're running a story targeted for children. That you gotta establish those things pretty quickly.
One of the things that I kind of had to chuckle to myself about, they talk about that Jane and her father have been studying gorillas. And they're there because they want to see them in their natural habitat. They want to study them. They want to go write papers and all this other stuff.
Which is
So
crazy. Can I just add something? Sorry.
sure.
Did you know that gorillas weren't like discovered by humans till like 1920s? Around
Really?
that time. Yeah. Which is insane thing to think about, but it's true. They
I mean,
were
it
a
makes,
myth before then.
I guess it would make sense because they wouldn't, I mean, even when they would go to, like, say a country in South America or Africa or wherever the gorillas would be, are they really going far into a dense jungle that they don't know what's there without much to protect themselves? Because I
No.
feel like it's not like you're going to see gorillas hanging out on the beach.
Or around people.
Exactly.
Or even close, right?
And
So yeah.
animals like that are good at knowing their surroundings and knowing how to hide in their surroundings from other predators, which, if they don't know what humans are, they probably instinctively just look at them as immediately a predator, and I'm going to keep my distance.
Yeah, and the local people, they they knew of their existence, but they kind of just left them alone. They weren't really curious
Yeah.
to really go out and just like to
I mean,
discover, find them, and to
it's kind of surprising that it was
record
that
them.
late, but I guess when I think about it, and as we're kind of talking about it, I guess it kind of makes sense.
Hmm. It's a crazy thing to think about, but it's not that long that they were. But yeah,
And it only took,
yeah,
what? So the 20s, it only took probably, what, 15 years to make the first movie about a killer gorilla and King Kong?
yeah, and it makes sense because that paranoia of what else is in there. Is there an even bigger one? I could see how
Yeah.
that could evolve into that, right? Into that story.
Yeah, that's wild.
Hmm.
Um, another little bit of a nitpicking thing that I wanted to bring up with this when it comes to Jane.
Ah,
No. It's just the
I
fact
know I was
that,
messing with you.
so like I said, they're studying gorillas. They're on this expedition. You would think they're prepared. They kind of know a little bit of what they're getting into.
Hmm.
Why is Jane going traipsing through the jungle in an all-out ball gown with like the white gloves, the umbrella, like the whole garden party look? Why isn't she in like
More
shorts? Like, because later in the
appropriate
movie,
attire.
she's in like shorts and a tank top, which makes sense for what you're doing. Like,
Yeah,
I,
I
I don't
I
know.
wish they would have just at least established that with quick dialogue that they tried to tell her that, but she was stubborn and she wanted
Or
to wear what she wanted to
or
because she's
even
a
if it was
strong,
something
independent
like they had
woman.
just
Like
gotten
the
to camp and they heard something and had to rush and she hadn't had time to change, or like say something, because both Clayton and her father are in, I guess,
jungle
traditional
gear.
like safari or explorer garb, and
Hmm.
she's in this gigantic fucking dress.
Yeah, but I guess they did that just to establish her as a damsel for when she gets rescued by Tarzan, I guess. I'm not too sure.
Which the rescue is. I mean, she says it later. Like he has no respect or concept of personal boundaries.
Well, yeah, it makes sense because that's the first person he's ever seen like him. He didn't realize he was a human. He didn't know what that was. He didn't
Yeah,
know what that means.
he didn't know there were other people, like other creatures that looked like him.
So his curiosity is an animalistic type of curiosity to where he's, yeah, matched with his animal upbringing, he's not going to know anything about personal boundaries or anything like
And then
that.
that turns into
Animals don't.
horniness.
Maybe. I mean, he's just curious. He's just curious. I think more curious than anything.
No, I know. See,
But we all know. We all know.
well, you get the scenes. He's showing curiosity in Jane and the humans, and meanwhile, at the same time, Turk and her buddies and Tantor come across the humans' camp, and they're curious about that because they're like,
they fucked that whole shit up.
what the hell is all this shit? And did you notice the tea set from Beauty and the Beast?
Yeah, which is crazy because just before, or sorry, just after, because they pan over and they pan over to the chip and the teapot there.
Yep.
The elephant's freaking out, and Turk says, "Don't worry, it's not like they're alive or
Yeah.
moving or something," which is kind of a wink and a nod because some of them do spring to life at some point.
And apparently gorillas are really good at scatting.
And playing like, yeah, they should go on the road with their act. They're such a good jazz band there.
So this is the only song on the soundtrack that's not done by Phil Collins. Do you know
lyrics?
Do you know who did it on the soundtrack?
No.
Little boy band by the name of NSYNC.
Okay. Did they? They were just scatting. There was no like.
Yeah, so basically the shooby-doo da 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 all that Rosie O'Donnell does in the movie. That's all they do on the microphone. I don't know why they couldn't just take the version from the movie and put it on the soundtrack because it sounded perfectly fine to me, but they wanted to get Justin and his curly hair at the time.
NSYNC was big at the time, and they were using that to push ticket sales and our soundtrack sales, just sales in general. So
yeah,
but no, it's the only one that's not Phil Collins based, and there's no lyrics.
But you know what? It's still a banging song.
It still works, even though
it kind of upsets me watching them destroy all these things.
You're into it when you're in it with the way the scene is shot, like when it's going on and you're with the animals, but then it pans out and you see from Jane's point of view, and the animals are just fucking up the whole
chaos.
So you immediately turn on the elephants there, and the elephant and the apes there.
Well, because I also every time I watch it, I'm like, if I got back to camp and all my shit was destroyed, I'd be furious.
You'd be mad as hell.
I'd be like, Clayton, I'm on board. Let's capture him.
Exactly.
Apparently for slave trade.
Good Lord. I gotta look into that one. That's great.
But again, right here, it's going to go back to what I said. Because you're going to have very little time. So Jane basically starts describing to her dad and Clayton what Tarzan is like. She gets very in-depth on his eyes, and she's right. His eyes are the most expressive part of him, and kudos to the animators for putting that much detail into just this man's eyes, and you can tell everything by looking at them. But Tarzan shows up, and they say, we want to see the gorillas, and we go into the Strangers Like Me montage, where he's now learning about humanity.
Yes.
And I think this is
Flies.
probably my favorite song on the soundtrack.
Okay, really?
I'm a big fan of this one and Son of Man.
You'll Be in My Heart is a fucking hit to me.
You'll Be in My Heart is
Hit to me.
it's the classic, but I don't know. I tend to like those two.
Those are good.
And actually,
There isn't one bad or even mediocre song in this whole.
no, but You'll Be in My Heart actually won the Oscar for Best Original Song that year.
Yeah,
Not really a surprise.
Not at all.
Yeah, again, you lose a lot of this storytelling with the montages, but again, kids movie, visual medium, it makes a lot of sense because while it's playing, just showing him the pictures on their rudimentary or appropriate of the time slide projection,
Mm-hmm.
it shows that he can learn all of that, and then it shows them going out and looking at the stars every now and again, so that he's seeing those pictures kind of come to life.
And something else that could be viewed as a nitpick is how fast his ability to learn, because he starts talking English, mimicking right away.
Yeah, because you figure they're
comprehends language when there are in real life documented cases where people have been raised by not necessarily animals, but at least in isolation.
Mm.
And because of that, they didn't learn language. And that is a huge, huge factor in their development. And it affects them in, like dramatically to the point where they might. But I get it. It's a Disney movie.
I think when they show up, they say something about like, we have like probably 2 weeks until the boat is going to be back. So he learns all of this, like you say, in 2 weeks. And the first time she gets him to talk, him pronouncing his name, he's going, Tarzan. By the end of like a week and a half, he's speaking in sentences. He can
comprehend English.
He has figured out how to translate gorilla speak to English. He can say the name Kerchak in English.
Motherfucker's a genius.
Because ultimately that's what they say to him. And then the song kicks back in, but they say to him, like, the boat's going to be here any day. We haven't seen any of the gorillas. Tarzan, can you take us to the gorillas? And he's like, no, I can't because of Kerchak. Doesn't tell them who or what Kerchak is, but that's his reasoning. And we as audience members know why, but...
Yeah. It's not like he could have gave a detailed explanation. He's not there yet. But still, you have to suspend your belief that he's able to form any kind of sentence within that short of time.
Now, he did learn, but he didn't get very street smart because Clayton is able to manipulate him in about 12 seconds. When the boat shows up, he basically says to him, well, I mean, all she ever did want to do on this trip was see gorillas, and you're kind of preventing her from doing that. And immediately Tarzan just goes, Jane see gorillas, Jane stays? All right, let's do it.
Yeah, true. But they established in the last montage that
that was the flowers.
Yeah, it served as a montage of him learning how humans work, but it also served as them falling in love, basically, or at least Tarzan falling in love with Jane.
Yeah, and so they used Turk and Tantor to distract Kerchak, so he brings the humans to see them, and they're, of course, awe-inspired. They're loving it, but something goes wrong. Kerchak comes back, and this is where we get to the the chokehold we mentioned earlier on a fully grown silverback gorilla. And yeah,
Yeah.
Kerchak basically says like he kind of insinuates like you've chosen them over us, and upon hearing this, Kala basically says, I need to show you something. And she brings him back to the treehouse, which I got a question. Did she ever go in there and take those bodies out, or his parents' corpse is just still sitting there in the corner?
I'm gonna assume they took the bodies out, or
They've been eaten?
I mean, yeah, yeah, because why not?
But I will say, he comes out of that treehouse, and he looks
That's
good,
true.
but
That shit on.
his dad's clothes fit him as if they're tailored for him.
Hell yeah!
It's like it's like this. It's like
he had an extra suit. He had an extra suit.
Well, it's like the Superman suit in Man of Steel that Jor-El makes for Superman when he's a baby, and he's like, these are going to be his measurements when he's an adult. I got it.
Right? They had that technology. They could figure out his exact size and diet to what his waist size would be. He knows that. Oh yeah, show that Kryptonian technology, bro.
And they basically say that Tarzan has decided to go back to England with Jane and her father and Clayton.
But just before that, they have a real emotional scene with Tarzan and his mom. And yeah, man, any scene with those two, and they're just given time to talk. They are the emotional core of this movie, man. I mean,
they really are, because regardless of the fact that
it's just enough as much as a love story between those two than it is with him and Jane.
Just a different kind of love, and regardless of the fact that they're two different species, like he says to her, "You will always be my mother," because he didn't know his mom. Like, so it makes sense him saying that, but it still hits hard when you hear him say that and kind of hug her, and you can see that she's upset, she's crying, and he's crying, and
yeah, man. The thing about this movie, you did bring up a point, this goes with every character. The way they are able to establish emotions through the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't notice that until you said it out loud. I was like, yeah, that it makes perfect sense. And yeah, it's the way they're able to do that is brilliant, man, because you feel what they're feeling in that moment. And that's not an easy thing to do.
No, not at all. So, like you say, when you're drawing them, and you're just hoping that the audience will pick up on a little bit of that, but they get into the cargo ship, and they're thinking, okay, we're just going to get on and we're going to leave. Well, they get on and they're taken prisoner because now Clayton has to go
immediately. Immediately, as soon as his fucking toes touch that dock.
Yeah, he hits the ground, and you see guys,
evil niggas come out of nowhere.
The guys are creeping towards him, and Jane's yelling like, "Oh, it's a trap!" It's
that's just crazy. But I get it, and like that's what this whole third act kind of felt like. Kind of felt like it just bum rushed you out of nowhere.
Yeah,
it very rushed through.
I will say it does rush to get to the end, because immediately, like they say, they put them in captivity, in the smuggler's hold, basically the cargo hold of the ship, and they're basically prisoners down there. And they immediately start unpacking all of these cages and bringing them to the island to capture the gorillas, like their plan. And all we get is a quick little, oh, Tantor and Turk hear him scream, we got to go save him. Now they save him, they're back on the island, there's a big fight. Like, it just goes. Also, I'm pretty sure that a cargo ship wouldn't tip if an elephant was on one side of it.
I don't think
pretty
so.
sure those things are more stable, but I feel like that was like a Disney fat kid joke.
Yeah.
That could just be because I was the fat kid.
Could have been.
Maybe
But again,
that's
it's
where
just
my
cartoon
maybe that's where
cartoon
my
physics.
my childhood trauma is.
And cartoon physics when it comes to heavy animals, they are always extra heavy for whatever reason.
Yeah, but again, like I'm not even going back to that. Yeah, it makes sense in a cartoon. It's the kids laugh, oh haha, the big elephant tipped the ship. But they basically get in there, they save him in like 30 seconds, and he's just gone back to the island to go save the gorillas. And they do. They save all of them. There's an altercation with Kerchak and Clayton where Kerchak gets shot, unfortunately. And then we have this vine fight with Tarzan and Clayton, and this scene got dark.
Yeah, which is I get why they probably had to rush these scenes because it's so dark. If I personally wish, and I think I'm saying this because I'm an adult, I wish we would have got a little bit more of that scene of that, you know what I mean? Just to let it breathe and simmer a little bit more. Because
Yeah.
again, it definitely felt rushed. But I understand why they did that because you can't spend too much time in a Disney movie being that dark,
Well, I
especially
mean,
how it
even
ends.
that ending, dude. Like, to this day, I'm surprised that they allowed that because normally, if you watch a Disney movie, what happens to the villain? They get dropped, like they fall down like off a cliff or
It's
something.
usually, yeah, it's usually
You
they
don't get
fall
to
at a great height.
you don't get to see what happens. You see Clayton's hanging body. Granted, it's a shadow, but you see it for a good 3 to 4 seconds at least,
And
to
if
the
you're
point
a
where like you
kid,
can't miss it.
yep, uh, some kid, I mean, if you're a kid, uh, maybe under 8, and you're watching this, you wouldn't really register what just happened in that moment.
I made a point to distract my kids from at that scene, but
Yeah, they might. It's a risk for sure, but I feel like a lot of kids they wouldn't even pick up on that. But maybe I'm not sure because it
it's
is
almost
quick,
like
but
the
maybe not
the
quick enough.
shadow of Scar being attacked by the hyenas, but you really only get one jumping on him, and it could be like, oh, they're just fighting or whatever. This is no. You see his immobile body hanging.
It's limp. Yeah, it's limp.
Like it's a very dark ending I found for a Disney movie, but I mean that's the way they decided to go. And like you say, this movie is a little bit more adult-ish than a lot of the ones before it because of things like that and the nature of that type of stuff. But
Hmm.
um,
Yeah, absolutely.
and after this, you see Kerchak die, but before he does, he says that he basically views Tarzan as a son. He wants him to take over for him as like head of the family.
Yeah, an emotional moment, not one that you would tear up. Say it had been his mom,
Oh,
definitely would have got.
I would have been a puddle.
Which I'm glad they didn't do that. But still, you still feel for that character, and you do feel sad.
And I think part of
So
that is
especially,
why Tarzan decides that he has to stay. Like when, because still you got to
yeah,
remember at the
yeah,
end
that's a good reason for him to stay, for sure.
he's on the beach and Jane and her father are taking the rowboat back to the cargo ship to go back to England, and he's staying there because he now has
They
to
don't
kind
have
of
a leader.
fill Kerchak's shoes and do this in his place. And of course, when all this is happening, Jane and her father, she decides that she's going to stay because she's in love with him. And well, I guess her dad's like, well, I guess if my daughter's here, I've got nothing left in England. So he says to the captain, just tell him he never found us because people get lost in the jungle every day.
The dad had a lot of Sultan from Aladdin energy.
A little
They're
bit,
like
a little
they'd
bit,
be
yeah.
good friends. Again, because he's like the short,
The
the
mustache.
short father, very bubbly and positive and naive at the same time.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But yeah, so they decide that they're going to stay, and Jane repeats the sentence in Gorilla that he had taught her earlier that translates to Jane stays with Tarzan, and everybody hoots and hollers, and apparently everybody lives happily ever after. We get some more tree surfing and one more big embellished Tarzan yell, and that's the movie. So unless there is something that we didn't touch on in your notes, I'm just doing a quick skim over mine. I think we got everything that I had kind of wrote down. My good lord.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, the one thing I do want to say is it was pretty impressive how he was able to imitate the sound of a gunshot.
Perfectly. He's like Michael Winslow
This
or
man
whatever his name is.
this man has so many talents. It's not even funny.
He's a right. He is a genius. Yeah, that was pretty cool. And no, Phil Collins. He recorded the music of this in different languages.
Oh, did he do all the other languages or
I don't know if he
multiple?
did. I know he did a few. I don't know if he did. I don't know how many he did, but yeah, he definitely did different languages.
I didn't know that. That's pretty cool because yeah, this soundtrack is. I remember my best friend growing up. His mom had this CD, and anytime that we were in the car, we would be like, "Oh, put on the Tarzan soundtrack," and we'd just fucking crank that thing up, and we'd be singing. It would be like kids nowadays with like the Frozen soundtrack or whatnot. But oh yeah, we just I love this soundtrack. It's like I said, to me, hands down, it's the best Disney soundtrack that they ever made.
It's the best soundtrack, and it's not the most uh, broad, I guess, because a lot of Disney's classic movie, their soundtrack, it's very Broadway, but the style of song is different. Like you have a more upbeat, more slow, and Phil Collins kind of stays that same kind of tone throughout all of the songs in this.
Mm-hmm.
But they're
Well,
they still very effective because it acts almost like a narrative, a narrator in a
well,
way
that's why they
because
picked him.
yeah,
They picked Phil Collins because they chose him to provide the music as a deliberately moving away from the typical Disney show tune formula.
yeah,
And
that's
this,
what
and
makes
I
most sense.
also read um, this is the only Disney movie where the main female character does not sing a song.
Thank God, because I don't think the actors could, unless they just got a
Oh,
different person
you
to
want to
sing the song.
see Minnie Driver sing? Just a couple
Nah,
years before this, watch Goldeneye. She plays the Russian mistress in the bar with the cowboy hat who's singing. If you remember
okay.
that scene. So I think that's going to bring us to an end of our episode on Tarzan. And Juan, this was your pick, so we're going to let you get into your final thoughts first.
Yeah. Um, I think this movie is definitely it's one of my personal favorites for sure. What I love about this movie is how so grounded and more there's a lot of emotion, very emotional, and more effective drama than a typical Disney movie. Uh, it's fueled and defined by its motion and emotion. Um, it's a film that like isn't as flashy or as humorous as its other Disney classics, but when it hits hard. This, especially the humor and just the atmosphere, the identity. Um, what works for me is, a lot of just the storytelling, um, a lot of the emotion. The characters are great. Uh, the action, especially the swinging or surfing or skateboarding, whatever you want to call it. Um, top notch. Never seen that before in a Tarzan or even anything in
I don't think
animated.
we've seen it since.
No, not unless they're on an actual skateboard or. surfboard or something. The music definitely works. It's not traditional, but very effective, very powerful, and it acts as both an emotional anchor with a lot of the songs and overall narrative throughout the movie, almost as if Phil Collins is another character. Um, you know, Tarzan and what's the what's his mom name?
Kala.
Kala, Kala. Um, that worked just because it feels so sincere, sorry, so sincere, and again grounded. It's great. Uh, Tarzan and Jane also work. Um, Jane herself is a really good character. She's not so much as a damsel. She actually has a personality and has a character, and she's not weak in any way. Um, what doesn't work for me, for the most part, is probably Clayton. Um, just a very bad guy, just to be the bad guy, no depth or motivation, but they didn't have enough time. Um, and that third act was very rushed. I would say that is also a weakness slash nitpick for me. Um, but overall, I think it's a movie that probably prioritizes emotion and storytelling and movement over spectacle, and it doesn't rely on humor or any traditional musical structure, and it's all the more better for it. I wish Disney did more movies or at least take more risks because it proved here that it works. I definitely would recommend this movie for anybody who hasn't seen this. Doesn't matter the age or gender, doesn't really matter if you're a boy or girl. I feel like or age, you'll love this movie. Um, I give this movie a solid 8 out of 10.
Okay, yeah, I, that's definitely respectable. And you're right with those couple nitpicks. Clayton is he's so cartoony as a villain. Like you say, he's just evil for evil's sake.
He's
Um,
physically imposing, like they got that nailed down, but his personality is everything else
well,
falls short, falls
apparently
short.
he wanted gorilla slaves. I,
If they would have leaned in on that and
I
he was
can't
more
get
vocal
oh
about it, at least to the audience, I think that would have been
no. I will say that
that would
is
have
what
upped
came up.
his.
That is what came up when I asked Gemini AI to just give me some plot breakdown. I don't know if that's the actual truth. If it is, that's the one of the wildest things I've ever heard of. But
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
no, this movie is, to me, it's an absolute classic. It was a huge staple of my childhood. Like I said, I have very vivid memories of going to see this in the theaters. It was a super important one for me when it came out, and it's all these years later. It's held that special spot in my heart. I really enjoy the story, the characters. The only one that not that I'm not a big fan of, but I don't know if Minnie Driver was the right choice for Jane, but she does enough to get by in the movie. I wasn't particularly blown away by her.
Yeah, he does a
But
fine
Glenn
job.
Close as Kala, to me, might steal the movie with the emotional resonance that her character has, especially those moments like we had discussed with Tarzan, the one-on-one times.
Mhm.
The animation in this movie is absolutely fantastic. The music, the way they use some of the different Phil Collins songs as the subtle score every once in a while in the background. Um, there is very little that I dislike about this movie. It is so much fun to watch. It is, like you said, the action's great. The the production is great. The way everything looks. I'm going to highly recommend this movie to anyone who hasn't seen it. Old, young, does not matter. And if you have seen it, it's been a while. I highly recommend you go back and give it a rewatch because Whether you liked it, didn't like it, I think you're really going to have a lot of fun this time around. And that being said, I'm going to give this an 8.5 out of 10, actually.
Nice.
So, that being said, that's going to bring us to the end of this, our third episode of this miniseries on the Disney animation renaissance. And next week being our last episode, it is my choice. And I've kind of bounced around with a few different movies that are left. However, the one that I think I landed on, and this is the one we're going to do, just 1 year prior from when this movie came out, we are going to go and watch the definitive Eddie Murphy animated movie.
Huh.
And we are going to go to Imperial China and watch Mulan.
Surprised you picked this one.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
I didn't think you were a Mulan fan.
I love Mulan.
Yeah, I was flirting around with Mulan. It was either Tarzan or Mulan as my pick.
Well, the way that I kind of looked at it, and we had also said that what we might do, or what we're going to do, is in that episode, I said we'll do a quick ranking list of the 10 movies in this Renaissance. And the more I kept thinking about it, I was like, as much as I love things like Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, because the other ones that I could have picked were those Lion King, Pocahontas, Hunchback, Rescuers Down Under. Like, some of those movies I'm not a big fan of. Other ones I do love, but I also watched those when I was so little. I tend to identify more with with these ones that I watched at a bit of an older age, because when I watched them, I was able to kind of grasp the story a little bit more than, oh, there's a mermaid and she can walk now, or there's a lion and a warthog and a meerkat. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
but
I get it.
But yeah, so that's going to be my choice, and next week we are going to watch Mulan. So that's going to wrap it up here for us. And as always, we would like to thank all of our listeners and our subscribers, and we would like to ask for you guys to rate and review the pod, and also tell your family and friends about us, and it'll help us grow and get more listeners. And as always, give us a follow on our socials, which will be posted in the show notes. And until next time, thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing. Take it easy, everybody.
Peace.